Okay, so today we're going to go over some of the basics of Blender while creating a really simple cartoon ball bounce animation. When you first open up Blender, you'll be greeted with this lovely screen asking what type of project you want to make. For simplicity, we're just going to go with general. You'll then see we've been very generously given a cube, a camera and a light source to play around with. But we don't want to play with the cube, so we want to delete it. To do this, we just click on the cube and hit X to delete. Instead, we want to add a circle for the paddle of our paddleboard, and to do this, we'll be using Blender's most useful feature, Shift A. Shift A is just a shortcut for add, but if you don't like shortcuts, it's right here at the top. Then, we want to hover over Mesh and select Circle. As you can see, our circle is lying on the floor and glowing orange. If something is orange in Blender, it just means it is active or selected. Before clicking away from our circle, you'll see that there's a little menu at the bottom left. We want to open this menu because if we click off the circle now, this will disappear. All we want to do here is change the vertices to 62. Now would be a good time to show you how to actually move around in Blender. Use your mouse wheel to look around, hold shift and use the mouse wheel to move along the x-axis, and use control and the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, so now you'll want to go to the top view by pressing Z on the top right. Z is the top, Y is the front, and X is the side. And we can easily invert which side just by hitting them again. Next, hit edit mode, so we can start editing the shape of the circle. If we press R, we can begin to rotate the circle so that the paddle handle can fit between two of these vertices. To do this, you can just rotate it until it looks right, or you can be precise and add /2 after the angle to rotate halfway between two of the vertices. Next, we want to delete some edges, so we'll click the Edge Select button near the top and delete these edges by clicking on each one and holding Shift and then pressing X to delete. Next, click on the edge near the top bar and select Bridge Edge Loops to connect the edges. Next, still in Edges, we want to select the bottom edges and hit E to extrude. Extrude will basically just stretch out anything selected, but as you can see, it drags it based on our view. So to drag it down, we have to hit Y and drag it down to where we'd like. Look at that, we have a 2D paddleboard. If you want to be slightly more accurate to real life, paddleboards become slightly wider at the bottom of the handle. To do this, just select the bottom edge and hit S to scale it up. Next, we want to press Command R and drag your mouse wheel to add about 10 subdivisions. This will help us later in the animation. Now that we know some of the basics, we can start to speed things up. Hit Face Selection, right beside where we selected Edge Selection. Hit A to select all, press E to extrude. Now as you can see, our beautiful 2D paddleboard has transformed into an equally beautiful 3D paddle. To speed up our workflow, just rename the object selected to Paddle on the right. Our paddle is looking very rigid, so we'll smooth it out a bit by right-clicking and pressing Shade Smooth. But now the paddle looks all distorted and weird. To fix this, we just head to the little green icon on the right, select Normals, and hit Auto Smooth. Now for the ball, hit Shift A, Mesh, and click UV Sphere. As you can see, it's too big, so before you click away, change the radius to 0.2 on the bottom menu. Now we can move it up by clicking the Move icon on the left and dragging the blue arrow up. Again, for convenience, we'll label this Ball. Okay, now for the materials. Split the screen by dragging this little arrow at the top. Then select Image Editor and hit Open. For this part of the video, it's completely up to you what colours you choose. Just save an image of a colour palette with 7 colours. For the ball, each side of the paddle, the handle, 2 for the background, and 1 for the side of the paddle. If you want to follow along, this is the palette I'm using. Next, go to the Materials tab, which is the little red globe. Hit New Material and name it White. Then, change Principled BDSF to Emission. This is just going to give us a nice solid colour. Then, click the dropper and select the white. Next, we're just going to copy and paste the white and change it to orange, repeating the steps for both red and green. To view the colours in real time, we can go to the rendered view at the top, which is how the project will look when it's rendered. Next, hit Z in the top right to go to top view. Select Face Selection and make sure you press Z on your keyboard to enter wireframe view. This will allow us to select faces on both the top and bottom of the paddle at the same time. Then go back to rendered view. Click on orange and hit Assign to assign the colour to the selected area. Boom, easy, coloured handle. Now, we're just going to select the faces on each side of the paddle by clicking on the bottom face, hitting Control and clicking the top face, then assign the colour. Do this for each side and then do the same for the ball. If your colours don't seem to match the palette, don't panic. Just go to rendered view on the right, scroll down to colour management and change Filmic to standard. Right above your colour management, click Freestyle. This brings us to
this the part that I like the most.
Next, go to Freestyle Line Set and click Material Boundary. This is going to give us outlines around everything, including lines separating colours. Look at that, outline's done. That was easy. The little blue wrench on the left is the Modifiers tab, used for giving our object some cool effects. Click it and select Simple Deform.
What is that? What fucked up.
Let's start fixing this. If you click bend, you'll see it's bending around the cursor in the middle of the paddle. This is the 3D cursor. To fix this, we just need to go into face selection. Select the bottom face of the paddle, hit Shift S and select cursor to selected. Make sure you're in object mode and select object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Not quite there. Go to the little orange icon. We're going to start playing with the object instead of the cursor. Rotate the X by -90 degrees and head back to modifiers. Now, if we press Command A and apply rotation, there we go. Now we can bend the paddle. Set the rotation back to 90 degrees and move on to... Go to the animation tab at the top, then go to your output settings on the right and set your resolution to 500 by 500. This is going to make the project fit into a square aspect ratio when rendered. Because this animation is going to be a loop, we don't need too many frames. Set frame start to 0 and frame end to 40, as well as the frame rate to 30 FPS. Go to frame 0 and set your angle to -40. Then add a keyframe by right-clicking on the angle and pressing Insert Keyframe. Then, jump ahead to frame 10 and set the angle to 40 and add another keyframe. Repeat the last step from frame 20 to add a frame hold for 10 frames. In animation, more frames closer together on the same action slows down the pace. Then, go to frame 30 and set it to -40. Then add another keyframe. Now time to add some pizzazz. On frame 0, set the Y rotation to 0 and do the same for frame 10. On frame 20, set the Y rotation to -180 and add a keyframe. Add another keyframe on frame 30, then go to frame 40. Change the rotation to -360 and set a keyframe. As you can see, now the little paddle does a little spin after each hit. Very cool. But it could be better. Go to the graph editor on the left and hit space to pause the loop. Hide the Y transformation and hit A to select all. Before we start, we should change nearest frame to individual centers so that we can adjust each curve individually. Next, select the bottom left line and the top right line, then press S to scale them down. Do the same for the remaining two lines but scale them up. For mental note, the graph should look like a nice wee wave. Now hide angle and unhide Y Euler, select all your points with A and scale them up to make them slower. Now as you can see, we have a nice speed ramp on the paddle spinning and bending. Now for the ball. Select the ball on frame 2 and move it down so that it connects with the paddle. This is the frame it will be hit. Set a keyframe. Then move forward to frame 22, set a keyframe. At frame 12, set the Z of the ball to 3.5 and set another keyframe. In the graph editor, select the curve and go to the modifiers at the bottom right menu. By selecting cycles, you can see that the animation in the graph editor now loops. But the ball doesn't stay in the air for long enough. It feels too heavy. To fix this, select the middle point of your apex and scale it up to round your bumps. Go to Layout and click on Rendered View. Click on the camera icon to enter camera view and open this little drop-down menu. Here we want to select Lock Camera to View, which lets us control the camera with our mouse. Set up your camera position and uncheck the box so we can move around without ruining our shot. Split the window and go into Image Editor. Bring in your palette and select the Red World tab. On frame 0, set your background as purple and set a keyframe. Then go to frame 2 and set it to blue, set a keyframe. Then to frame 22, set the background to purple and set another keyframe. At the minute, the background fades between the two. We don't want that. Go to the Animation tab and click A to select all. Right-click, hover over Interpolation mode and select Constant. Our animation is finished. Time to celebrate! On the output settings, click the file and choose where you would like to render it to. Name your file and press Accept. Then change your file format to FFmpeg video. Go to Render Animation at the top left and drum roll please. It's done! So there you have it. Now you know how to navigate Blender, add objects, select vertices, extrude faces, add modifiers, apply modifiers, animate and render objects.